Number 1. German has 3 grammatical genders: masculine, feminine, neuter. The masculine and feminine genders are obvious, but the neuter gender is neither masculine nor feminine, so it's neutral. In German, every noun has a grammatical gender, unlike English, which doesn't require this concept. When learning German, it's a lot better to study and memorize the genders along with the nouns themselves. German has articles, just like in English, but they're affected by cases and declensions, which I'll explain later. Considering the 3 grammatical genders, it is absolutely better to learn German articles with the nouns they accompany. Because every German noun has a gender, knowing the correct articles alongside each noun is the best way to understand the genders. When you see an article and a noun as inseparable, treat the article as a part of the noun itself. The correct article must agree with other parts of speech, so learning a gendered noun and its article together can help internalize the gender and use the correct article when speaking naturally. Even though the German alphabet is for the next video, I would like to show just a few examples of the 3 grammatical genders. The pronunciation of the examples will be natural because German is more phonetic, with words pronounced as they're written. Der Tisch is the table, and it's a masculine noun because of the masculine definite article der, which is put in the nominative case. Again, the German cases are for later. Die Lampe is the lamp, and it's a feminine noun because of the feminine definite article die in the nominative. Das Buch is the book, and it's neuter because of das in the nominative. Using the 3 genders, it's better to memorize the articles with the nouns because this way it's easier to identify the gender of a noun. Number 2. German capitalizes every single noun. It's the only language that does that, which is the most distinctive feature of its grammar. In English, capitalization is reserved for proper nouns and titles, but in German, it visually distinguishes nouns from other parts of speech, which makes it easier to identify a noun in a sentence. This concept mainly applies when writing German, so when you see a capitalized word, it's a noun. In the previous examples, every noun was capitalized. Der Tisch, die Lampe, das Buch. Number 3. German has no progressive tenses like in English, such as present participles with ing. German uses a verb tense to show actions whether they're in the past, present, or future, so the context of a sentence determines whether the action is ongoing or habitual. In English, we can say, I am eating, you are sleeping, he is watching, she was seeing, we were talking, they will be showing. All of these phrases have ings in the infinitives along with conjugations of the verb to be. This is the continuous in English, also known as past, present, or future progressives. This tense doesn't exist in German because the language evolved without the need for a progressive tense, so context and modifiers are sufficient. However, German has the meaning of a continuous just without any tenses, so context and time indicators can clarify the action. For instance, Ich esse jeden Tag translates to I eat every day, a phrase in the present simple. But Ich esse jetzt translates to I am eating now, a phrase in the present continuous. Number 4. German has compound nouns. German forms long compound words by combining smaller words without spaces or hyphens. These compounds are treated as single nouns and are always capitalized. What makes them special is that they result in long words that describe a complex concept with great precision, allowing a high level of detail and specification within a single word. Compound nouns in German are typically made from 2 or more nouns joined together. Fundamentally, the gender of a compound noun will always be determined by the last noun of the word, so the final word in a compound noun always dictates the grammatical gender and category of the new word. An example is Apfel, Baum. Apfel, Baum. Apfel is apple, Baum is tree. To make a compound noun, we combine the words into one. Apfelbaum, Apfelbaum. Apfelbaum is an apple tree, and the compound noun is masculine and capitalized. Number 5. German has a flexible sentence structure and word order. The word order in German is more flexible than in English, but it's guided by rules, cases, and verb placement. German allows a flexible word order because of its cases, but there are rules for clarity and emphasis. Unlike English, which is usually fixed in the subject-verb-object order, German has 4 patterns for sentence structures: standard, inverted, transposed, subordinate. Each pattern can change the word order without affecting the meaning too much. For instance, a standard pattern in German, also known as the main clause, follows a subject, a verb, and an object, which is the basic structure in English. An inverted pattern inverts the subject and the verb, primarily when asking a yes or no question. A transposed pattern transposes the object to the beginning of a sentence, continuing with a verb and a subject. A subordinate pattern, also known as a subordinate clause, begins with a subject, continues with an object, and puts the verb at the end of a sentence. This concept will be explained in a future video, but for now, it's important to understand the offshoot that develops from German having a flexible word order. Number 6. Verb placement. German verb placement creates flexibility in sentence structure. This rule is very important to know because German word order is highly influenced by verbs. For example, there are 2 principles in the standard sentence pattern, which is affected by verb placement. It's valuable to know them because they can help understand other patterns in different ways. Understanding why German grammar behaves like that will help to understand how to correctly use it. Principle number 1. In a standard pattern, the subject noun must be next to the finite verb. Principle number 2. In a standard pattern, the verb must always be placed in the second position. This is always true for any clause, so these 2 principles reflect the simplification of why the standard pattern acts the way it is. This is only one rule to understand because German has many of them. Verb placement in German is a very critical aspect because verbs can move around depending on the sentence structure and word order. For example, a main clause in German will always have a verb in the second position. Ich spiele Fußball. I play football. It's a main clause in the standard pattern because the finite verb is in the second position. When asking a question, the verb comes first, similar to English. Spielst du Fußball? Do you play football? In a subordinate clause, the verb moves to the end. Ich weiß, dass du Fußball spielst. I know that you play football. Even though there are new concepts in the following words, like unique letters and sounds, I will explain all of them in the next video. Number 7. German has grammatical cases with declensions. A case is a grammatical category that indicates the function of a word in a sentence, and it's made by declensions. A declension is the modification of a word's form that indicates its syntactic function within a sentence. In German, declensions usually consist of adding different endings to articles, nouns, pronouns, and adjectives. By using declensions, the language allows to indicate the case, number, and gender of a word. Essentially, it's how an article, noun, pronoun, or adjective changes its form depending on its function, with different endings for different situations. In German, there are 4 grammatical cases that are very important to understand because by using them, it's possible to speak German correctly. Think of the cases as different expressions that modify articles, nouns, pronouns, and adjectives in 4 different ways. German has 4 different types of expressions, with each one making a new way to modify an article, noun, pronoun, or adjective, usually by adding letters to a word's end. German has the following 4 cases: nominative, accusative, dative, Genitive. The nominative is the dictionary form of words that emphasizes the subject of any sentence. The accusative refers to direct objects. The dative refers to indirect objects. The genitive relates to possession. These 4 German cases show the role of a word in a sentence, and they explicitly affect article, noun, pronoun, and adjective endings. The 4 German cases will take a long time to explain, so I'll describe them more in a future video. Still, to give an example of how the cases work, let's have a few sentences. The nominative is used for the subject of a phrase, and it's the dictionary form of words. An example is der Hund. Der Hund. The dog. We have the masculine definite article the, which is der in the nominative. The accusative is used for a direct object in a sentence. An example is Ich sehe den Hund. Ich sehe den Hund. I see the dog. We have the masculine definite article the, which becomes den in the accusative because Hund is a direct object noun. The dative is used for an indirect object in a sentence. An example is Ich gebe dem Hund einen Knochen. Ich gebe dem Hund einen Knochen. I give the dog a bone. We have the masculine definite article the, which becomes dem in the dative because in this case, Hund is an indirect object noun. Alongside, we have Knochen as the direct object and an indefinite article, einen, which is a in the accusative. This example truly shows how far German cases go, because the dative indicates to whom or for whom something is done, and the verb give emphasizes this concept. The genitive indicates possession or a relationship between 2 words, often presented by of the. An example is Das ist das Spielzeug des Hundes. Das ist das Spielzeug des Hundes. That is the toy of the dog. We have the masculine definite article the, which becomes des in the genitive because it indicates possession. Even so, Hund is now modified to Hundes by adding s to the end of the word. Also, the noun Spielzeug is nominative because of the definite article das, which is the neuter masculine article the. At this point, the German cases become complicated, so I will stop here. This was the last thing to know before learning German, so the German cases also apply to feminine and neuter articles, nouns, pronouns, and adjectives. Considering that many words can be plural, this system expands even more, so there is a lot of information that needs to be known. Anyhow, these are things to know before learning German.